But then when you're filming for a movie that is going to be played in theaters and it's with Abhishek Bachchan as your co-star, Shoojit Sircar as your director, there is a different kind of like. Abhishek Bachchan came to me afterwards and he said, in an emotional moment, say our truth and speak back to somebody. So I just had to kind of channelize those feelings, and I think it was pretty. I mean, I was super worried when I saw the film for the first time. I was like, what if I just, don't look good on screen? It's a possibility.
Ahilya, Bamroo, thank you so much for joining me on the Vickey Lalwani show. You have been wonderful in Shoojit Sircar's latest offering, I Want to Talk.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I've seen the film, and I think for a debut, it was really, really impressive, even otherwise, frankly.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
And let's straight start off by asking you, you live in Pondicherry and
Mhm.
you've had a flourishing art and theatre cultural scene there
Mhm.
since a very long time. How has that place shaped you as an artist? And can we expect to see you in Bombay soon, shifting bag and baggage?
So I think Pondicherry, first of all, it's a smaller town than most Indian cities. So it has this sense of you kind of know everybody. So there's a familiarity within the space. But also I was in these two kind of alternative education schools, both in Pondicherry and in Auroville, which were really, based on giving students freedom over what they would like to learn, expressing their creativity, and just having a lot of non-traditional success-oriented schooling. So it's not like you go to schooling because you're going to get a job, and then it was more about personal development, so to say, or being the best at something. It was just because I enjoyed those mediums and enjoyed those crafts. So I think that definitely influenced me in feeling super um, fluid, flexible, doing the things that I really love to do. And one of those was acting. There's also singing, there's video making. So all of these things came together, and each of them I did because I really loved doing them. And I think that's what Pondicherry really gave me more than anything else, that I was never worried that am I going to be able to turn this into a job. So that was very valuable for me.
You have been a star on the social media in your own right, doing funny things, witty things, quirky things. Uh, but more or less, you do it on one camera.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when it comes to a movie, or let's go direct saying that when it comes to this Shujit Sarkar's film, I Want to Talk, there's not one camera obviously involved. The DOP has set it up in n number of ways on n number of occasions. What differences did you have in that, and what similarities? Going by your earlier mode of recording yourself, and how easy
So
was it to maneuver that? I mean, or rather, how tough it was to.
I think the biggest kind of change or difference is the fact that when I'm shooting content or making Instagram videos, I'm sitting in my room, in my childhood room. I'm filming with one little cell phone in front of me, and I have full control over what's I've written, what I'm going to do. And I also like to be alone. I don't like to ask for people to help me film because it kind of sometimes stresses me out, at least when I was doing my own stuff. So the transition of now being part of a team where there is a director who's directing you, there is a DOP which is making sure that you're looking, they're creating the scene for you, and then there's also a team that's just behind a wall, and everyone's watching the monitor as you're doing a scene. So that creates a new level of a sort of anxiety almost. But I think that I don't know if it's going to be like this for every production, but Rising Sun Films and Shujit Da and the team, they were so familiar and familial with each other that I had the sense that I was working with a large kind of extended family, people who have worked with each other for many, many projects and years. So I had a sense of comfort, I think, with this team that allowed me to do this first film without that much of like stifling nervousness or anything like that. Because definitely having in a way, your time, everyone's time is precious. So if you make a mistake as the actor, that's a lot more on you rather than me making, oh, I did a mistake. I can cut this and I can edit it. Now I retake it in my room. No big deal. So I think that was one big change. But I don't know, Shujita was an extremely, I don't even know how to explain it, but just a wonderful director to work with, specifically for these things. He made me feel so confident and special, more like comfortable in my own skin, let's say. So that was really important for me.
Similarities?
Of the between the two things,
Yeah.
I think because I do enjoy performing and acting,
Mm.
after a point you can kind of turn off what it is or the scale of what it is that you're filming for. Because when you're making a video for yourself on your Instagram, there is a certain it's a in some sense a low stakes situation. But then when you're filming for a movie that is going to be played in theaters and it's with Abhishek Bachchan as your co-star, Shoojit Sircar as your director, there is a different kind of like stake. But somehow when the camera starts, I can, if I try, turn off that concept of what am I doing. And I could just be like, I'm performing and I'm acting, which is what I love, which whether it's in my room or it's in the US, which was also a place that I'd never been to before. So it was my first time in the US. So to turn off some of the like things that can add to the stress of it, to just be like, this is the work and this is the acting, and that's all that is important. So that kind of feeling can remain the same with both things. Yeah.
Now, in this case, when you uh, do it yourself, the video which you record for the internet or for the social media, let's put it, there is bound to be improvisation.
Mhm.
Okay, you look at it, maybe you feel, okay, now let's do it another way, or maybe you only improvise on your own in the first take itself because there's nobody around you, there's, you know, and here, I mean, did you have a bound script कि भाई नहीं इतना ही करना है, or did Shujit allow you to go your way, the free way?
I think there was, when we were actually on set, he gave us a lot of flexibility and freedom to add our own touches to whatever the scene was. He also asked us a lot for our opinions on how things were flowing, which I thought was an extremely beautiful, kind of democratized process of making a movie. Um, but there was obviously a script because the writing is very important of this film. It's the sentences and the dialogues that are based on a real person's life and experiences. So there were certain things that we needed to stick to, but there was a lot of freedom in how we were going to say these things. And um, there was not so much of do exactly this kind of directing. He was very much allowing us to also show what we can bring to the character. And we did a lot of reading and prep before, where he was speaking to us more about like, and I think Shujita doesn't like if we learn our lines to the T, because then it's really hard to do them anyway differently when you're actually on set. So he wanted that space that we could improvise, change a line if it was not working, make something better. So for that to happen, then we needed to not be so tied down to one particular way of reading the script also. So there was flexibility.
Now, when you take this ecosystem of content creators and you are now an integral part of it, I would say that your videos are different compared to most others or other others. And was that, your quirky way of, doing your videos without being cinematic? Was that what attracted you to a Shujit Sircar film? In some ways, you found some co-link or, you know.
I think I've always been interested in films that feel extremely grounded and natural. I love the big theatrical drama of Bollywood as well. That's super fun, and that's one particular thing. And but I also really enjoy films about just real people, regular people in their everyday lives, the mundane. That's very interesting for me. And acting in a way that is doesn't feel like acting is something that I'm super interested in. So it was kind of a gift of some kind, because the producer Ronnie Lahiri had seen a video of mine during COVID, and then when they were talking about casting somebody for this part, they reached out to me through Instagram actually. And then I got onto a call with somebody from the team and we spoke. So, and then it was kind of like the perfect joining of worlds, because this was exactly the kind of project that I would have loved to do. And it kind of landed in my lap because of a video that I had done where I suppose they saw some sense of this kind of natural, non acting, acting way of being. So I think that that's how it worked together, and it's a project that I very much aligned with from the beginning, and I respect Shoojit Sarkar's vision and his perspective and his way of filmmaking so much. So I was just feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe that I got this opportunity. And I wanted to immediately, I was like, I have to do this well, you know? So it was from the first start, I was like, okay, I must, you know, live up to that standard and the quality of the acting that is always there in his film.
What you are saying is your thought process aligned with the ecosystem of
Yes.
Sujit Sarkar.
Yes.
And what happens now when you get films which are purely commercial?
So I don't think that I'm particularly wanting to be in one particular track of films. I think what's exciting about being an actor is that you get to play many different parts, parts that challenge you, parts that you've never seen yourself as before.
Mm.
And so I'm very open to trying a huge range of roles if it comes to me. I'm very excited about the diverse range of things you can do as an actor. So I'm not close to any particular type of film. I think that like being able to like experiment and be different people, wear different hats is actually the best part of this job. So I'm not close to doing some kind of a role that I've not seen myself as or I don't identify with personally. Because that's also the job. It's like it proves that you can actually do this work in a way, right? So yeah.
So you're drawn to movies, as an audience, movies of all types.
Yeah, I love all kinds of movies. I wouldn't say that I have one specific type of favorite movie. I like animation. I like big blockbuster Bollywood. I like action movie Hollywood, but I also like really simple, slow burn, like slice of life movies. Like it's all across the board, really. I love
Let's recall.
Malayalam films. So good. Yeah.
Let's recall your first day on the set.
Okay.
I want to talk.
First day on the set. So I was not shooting a scene on my first day of on set. I just came to see how it was. And it was my first time on any movie set. So I suddenly saw sort of behind the green curtain of this experience or this you watch a movie but you have no idea how it's really made. So that was very crazy in a way. I remember stepping onto the house and just seeing how a few days before I'd seen a picture of this house with nothing in it. And now the production team and the art team had made it into a home that felt lived in. And I was like, that's magic also, that you can create a life through specifically putting objects. So that was the first thing that stood out for me. And then I saw Pearly, who plays younger Rhea, and Abhishek Bachchan doing a scene, one of the scenes in the kitchen, conversation between them. And I was watching on the monitor and I saw, I don't know, it was, I think, one of Pearly's first scenes. And she had done such an incredible job. And I remember sitting in the back and thinking, okay, it's going to be my turn also to just like pull up my socks and do this also in a few days. But my first day on set was more of a observer. I was not doing anything yet. So, but the nervousness is slightly there in the back. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do this also soon. So that was the feeling. Yeah.
And your first scene?
My first scene was the one at the lake, where we're sitting after the fight on the staircase. If you've seen the movie, you will know.
Yeah.
But I'm talking to Arjun about, or my dad in the film, about the fact that I'm happy, I'm okay that they got divorced. It's okay. Please stay divorced, separated. And so that whole conversation was my first scene, and they kind of sprung it on me because I was not supposed to do that scene on that day. I had come again just to observe, and then suddenly Shujita said, "Oh, let's try this scene." And I was not really prepared. And suddenly, hair and makeup was doing a bunch of stuff. They put me in the costume, and then there I was sitting, and my heart was beating a lot. But again, it was that thing of once action is said, you ease into it. If you love what you do, then it just has to happen. And then that was my first scene. And it's really sweet that it's that particular scene. I think it's a really tender and sweet scene to start with. Yeah.
I think that was the best scene. In fact, I wrote to Shujit also that confrontation scene at the staircase where you suddenly
Mm-hmm.
bring up that sentence, about the divorce. Let's not give it away what you say,
Mm-hmm.
what you tell him, actually, your father in the film, Abhishek. That was the best scene. I think the shot which he took from top after the scene is over and
Mm-hmm.
Abhishek is just standing there, uh, maybe most directors, I would say, would go closer to the person and take a close up of him, in
Mm-hmm.
such a case.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes a shot from a top angle and quite far, and he's just standing there.
Yeah.
Breathlessly is the word.
Just by himself. And I think there was like the few seconds where it lingered on that. There was
Yeah.
a lot of meaning behind that. Yeah.
So, which
Yes.
was your toughest scene, Ailia?
Well, this particular scene on the staircase was second or the second scene I had done,
Hmm.
or so, or third or something, but it was like on the very beginning of my run.
Hmm.
So I remember knowing that I have to have an emotional outburst of some kind. So I was like thinking about how I would tap into that emotion. And so it was kind of tough because I didn't want to be melodramatic about it. I didn't want to be having like a huge meltdown, so to say. So I was trying to think about how I would like to do it. So I remember being very stressed about it. And it was the last scene we shot that day. We shot a couple of others in the morning. And I was just feeling really emotional. And I was sitting by myself and just thinking about like parenthood and what it means, to be like all of this. And it just kind of came to me. And so in one way, it was very hard because to get those emotions, what was harder was afterward. And it was funny because Abhishek Bachchan came to me afterwards and he said, this was, I'm supposing, the first time that you had this kind of an emotional scene. And when you start off acting, and this was such a great piece of advice, he said, you will tap into your own life and emotions to be able to feel these things. So, and now you will go home and it will stay with you, what you've just done. But then eventually, as you go along, you will be able to tap into these emotions without having to dig so deeply into your personal life and your pain and your relationships. And then you won't have to take it home with you and it won't be something that affects you for hours and days afterwards. And I thought that that was like a really good piece of advice, or just like a an experience sharing, because I did think about that scene and my own life and my own relationships with my parents and stuff throughout that day and then into the next day. I was not like, oh, cut and now it's over. So it was still with me. So I think that that was kind of difficult, but as we went along, it was something that stayed with me. That thing that I can access my emotions without taking it home with me.
Did you draw any inspiration for this scene? How did you channelize it? I mean, the
I mean, I think everyone has a relationship with their parents of some kind. So you can always think about your own life in that sense. And there's also just so much like imagery and writing about these interpersonal relationships. So it was not too hard for me to really dig into what makes this scene kind of special and makes it poignant. And I think like if anyone and everyone's like, we all know somebody who has been ill. We all know someone whose parents are divorced, and we just have a lot of experiences with all these things. It's very human, very universal. And we've all had like a moment where we really, in an emotional moment, say our truth and speak back to somebody. So I just had to kind of channelize those feelings, and I think it was pretty easy to access that emotion because of how universal of a feeling it is.
So, what's the next step now? And I mean, you said you want to do all kinds of movies. So, have you started sending your pictures to directors, producers, started calling them, started meeting up with casting directors?
So for now, I've been meeting with different people in the industry also for a while since I started my Instagram journey as well. So I'm kind of letting myself sit with what's happening right now with the release, and to really be in this moment and not be too rushed into suddenly running into what's next. So I'm like taking it patiently, and I'm just very excited to act in whatever form. So I'm curious to see what comes my way. But I'm not. I'm right now. I just want to be in this moment of I want to talk, feel the fact that okay, we filmed a film a year ago, and then for a year we had to keep it hush. There was no like sign of it anywhere, and then suddenly that labor of your work is now out there for the world to see. So just like really being present in that moment is what's happening for me. But I'm extremely enthusiastic to keep doing this. Yeah.
The obvious next question is, in fact, I asked you earlier, but you didn't answer it. Uh, will you be now shifting to Bombay bag and baggage sooner? or maybe later?
I think but with today and how it all works, I think most of the work that happens in Bombay. So I'm often in Mumbai already. I think over time I might spend longer and longer amounts of time there. And if there's a project in Mumbai, I will obviously be there. But I'm also quite connected to the life I have in Pondicherry, in Oroville. It's still home. It's still where I feel the most comfortable. So I don't think I'm just going to leave it behind. It'll always be a place that I come back to, but I'm open to being wherever I need to be. If I have to work somewhere, I'm willing to be anywhere.
Any particular dance groups you're attached to? Because dancing is also a very important
Yeah.
when it comes to
Dance groups, as in types of dance.
in Pondicherry, any dance groups or any. And now, what's the scene on the theater groups? Are you attached to some particular ones?
So when I was growing up, I did all the different types of dance. I did Odissi, Bharatnatyam, I did Kathak, but that was when I was a bit younger. And then as a teenager, you kind of leave all of your school things behind because you're interested in other things. And that was the time when I took up guitar, singing, more of a theater look. So I've done a lot of theater in Oroville, which is musicals, jazz and rock and roll musicals, blues musicals, written and produced by directors in Oroville. So I've done a lot of that kind of theater, but I'm still very much interested in, working on the craft and getting back into a practice of dance and maybe a martial art and all of these kinds of things to make yourself grow as a performer and be ready for anything, but specifically. So I'm not attached to a dance group, but I'm very interested in, Bharatnatyam, for example. I think it's like a beautiful art form, and there's some of the best teachers in Tamil Nadu. So yeah.
When it comes to Abhishek Bachchan, I mean, he's had so many years of experience. He's such a fine actor.
Hmm.
Uh, how do you, or let's say, what were the challenges you faced when, being in the same frame with him? What were the learnings that you got?
So, in terms of the challenges, it was mostly the ones that I'd created in my head of kind of psyching myself out because I wanted to do, a good job. I didn't want to waste anybody's time by making too many mistakes. I always wanted to be prepared. But then I realized that when you're working with an actor who's that fine and so good at their craft and has so much experience and wisdom, you're not acting as much as you're responding to how good they are in the scene. So, because of how incredibly he was playing Arjun Sen, it became very easy for me to just respond as his daughter. And it didn't feel like acting anymore because it felt so natural. If they're giving me this kind of a real true human experience, emotion, and putting it out there as a performance, then all I have to do is respond to it. And then I can also be as good in that sense. It was just about responding. So, what made it tough was my own head to be like, oh God, I'm doing this with Abhishek Bachchan, and this is scary. But what made it easy was just what an impressive performer he is and what a wonderful person he is on set. He's always making everybody laugh. He always had really lovely, specific pieces of advice to give me that were like, and it's not like he was going on and telling me what to do ever. He gave me so much space to also just act in my own way, but just specific short things that were so helpful and so constructive. So I'm super grateful that it was with him that I got to do this first film. I don't think that there was like a better actor to be acting with, and I just felt, I don't know, I'm super grateful for being able to be part of this project.
So, any particular offers which are about to be signed, and you can tell us maybe, yeah.
For now, I don't really I can't really share anything, but I'm just all I'd like to say about it is that I'm very um, motivated to challenge myself and do things that I have not done before in terms of types of characters, languages, even because as you know, I do accents and all kinds of different characters in my Instagram on my Instagram. So I'm curious to how that will translate into the types of work I can do if I can play somebody that talks very differently to myself or just is from a different part of the country or world or whatever. So I'm excited to challenge myself. um, but I guess we shall see. I don't know. Fingers crossed.
So, Ahilya, who's the go-to person when you have to, I mean, sign a film, whether it was this one or maybe when you take a decision on the theater scene, Who's the go-to person?
For who I ask for advice. I mean, it's a group of people now, which is cool. I always speak to my parents about it, my family. I think they've been extremely trusting in my instincts for things. They've never like been very, this is what you should do and this is what you should not do, which I'm extremely grateful for, because it's not easy to be that trusting in your kid when you're a parent, you know. But they really allowed me to make my own decisions, and but I always ask for their advice because I know that they really have my best interest in their minds. And then there's my agents. I'm represented by Tulsi in India, so I speak to the team. They represent a bunch of very fine directors and actors and writers as well, so I know that the kind of projects that are under their umbrella have been of really great quality. So I trust in, you know, what they feel is right and not right, and that's cool. And then I also like to trust myself in just, do I feel comfortable with this? Is this something that interests me? I also don't want to, you know, just do without thinking of, now what am I feeling or wanting to move towards, I suppose. So it's like a combined group of people. And I'm also represented by an agency in the UK called Independent Talent, that they are internationally representing me. So there's like a group of people now, and it's interesting to get everyone's perspective on everything. But it's also mostly about the fact that I need to also be enthusiastic about what I do. So that's important for me to keep my curiosity and my drive for projects. Yeah.
So you are a social media star. I think the important question to ask you here is that are you also consumed by the numbers and the likes? And I think at this point of time, most of us, or maybe I can use the word whosoever is on social media, is consumed by that.
Yeah. So I started off Instagram like a lot of people did, because COVID was kind of somewhere in the middle, it was happening. And you had a lot of free time
Mm.
and you had a phone, and suddenly it became like you could just express a thought and put it out there and you don't know what happens. So that was how the Instagram journey started. It was never the goal to kind of be a create like a content creator or an influencer in that sense. I just was kind of talking about the things I liked, and I love doing skits, and I love doing accents because it's fun, and I love making jokes. So that's how it started, and I maintained that, I think, for quite a while. I'm pretty proud of myself. I was really wanting to only make things that I would want to watch. So I tried not to become really convoluted in being obsessed with, am I being viral enough, or is my content engaging enough? I tried to keep that out of my mind for as long as I could. But then when the numbers get bigger, the people get more critical as well. And I was suddenly, after having a community that to this day is so kind and supportive towards me, I'm eternally grateful. There was always a couple of people being like, this is boring, do something new, try something else, we want more of this. And so you want to appeal to your audience, and you want to like also give them what they want. So that was also a thought that came in, but I tried my best to not turn it into kind of the central focus of my work, like getting likes and getting high numbers. Because I knew that the second that happened, then I would stop enjoying doing it. And if I stopped enjoying doing it, then I would not make anything good, is what I felt. Like it would not be myself. And I think sometimes, you know, and another fact about it is that as a content creator, you're also able to monetize your work, right? By doing collaborations and sponsorships with people. And that kind of content always feels a little bit jarring if you suddenly are saying, okay, you know, I've tried this thing, but I've tried to be extremely wary of not wary, but aware of the brands I work with, so that it aligns with who I am in some sense. So that I'm not lying to people and saying, hey, I tried this thing, it's good, you should try it. And I'm lying. I've never tried it before. No, it's like stuff that I really liked, stuff that I tried, brands that I appreciate. But people always kind of, and I felt like a sellout at one point, because I'd for the longest time not done any brand collaboration, and then suddenly I was doing them. But it's like, you know, girls gotta eat, you know, like I also have to make a living. So to find that space, and I think people also understand that like it's a job in a way, like any other job. And if you're going to go and wake up and go to the office, it's like that. I wake up and I make a video, and you know, but I want you to like it as well. So there's that thing. So I don't know. I just said a bunch of stuff. I don't know if it made a lot of sense.
So what happens to the reviews? They are still coming, some of them. And
Yes.
have you read them? Were you waiting for them with bated breath, if I can say that way?
I was definitely curious to know what people are thinking about it. I find both the critical reviews of, like, the critics' reviews of them, but and also just people who from anywhere who are also watching the movie. I like to read what they think about it. People have been posting stories. So I'm super grateful at the audiences that come and show up to support these types of movies, because they're not conventional Bollywood movies, right? They don't have like a huge action arc or like a big, there's no songs and dance. It's human, it's subtle, it's slow paced. Some people say it's slow paced. I thought it was not. But so I'm just so happy to read from people who enjoy these types of movies and are able to give their perspective on the film. So I'm really enjoying reading all the reviews. Some are also not super positive, and some people have their own criticisms for the film, but I'm also quite happy to read those, because it's like you have to take the good and the bad. You cannot only want to hear good stuff about what you do. It'll Otherwise it won't help you progress as an actor. People have been very kind about my performance, and I'm feeling extremely grateful that I don't know, that people appreciated this type of a part and a character, because again, it's not like it's very relaxed, it's subdued, there's not, but people were very nice and said extremely encouraging things, which makes me feel like, okay, I want to do another one, and I want to do it good, if not better. And so I've been really happy reading the reviews, the good and the bad. So it's great. Yeah, I'm really happy.
It's a balanced head on the shoulders as far as I can read it, because earlier you said you're not largely consumed by numbers and the
Yeah, I don't want to
ratings,
become obsessed with it, because
criticism.
I think that that could really ruin how I move forward. If I
And
get
you're
really, yeah, if I get too emotionally invested in what everybody thinks of me, you can't appeal to everyone. It's physically, like, it's impossible that everyone is going to like it, even if it's like, it's just not possible. So you have to be able to be discerning in that, and not get so overwhelmed if a person says, okay, this, I didn't like this movie, and it's okay, it doesn't reflect on you as a human being, it's their personal experience, and it's fine, so
And
yeah.
here also you have made that thought process that I'm not going to be consumed by reviews. What you also made a very big statement was that, once you get consumed by these things, you almost stop enjoying your work, which
Mhm.
is so true.
Yeah, I can see that happening. If I don't know if it's true for everybody. I think for some people it is a driving force to make them want to do better. But I think that I don't work really like that. I think I'm the most motivated and driven when I feel that I'm not too obsessed with how people are seeing me in this moment. Even with the acting, if I started to think like, is this a good angle for me? Do I look nice on screen right now? Is my facial expression traditionally pretty right now? Am I pretty enough? Am I this enough? Then I would stop being able to act well sometime. So, and I'm not saying that I don't have these thoughts, like I'm a person and I worry about what I look like on screen. I was super worried when I saw the film for the first time. I was like, what if I just, don't look good on screen? It's a possibility. But I was like quite, I don't know, comforted in the fact that when it came down to it, I could shut down a sense of that. But I think this is also an industry that's very visual. So you do have to think about how you're visually being presented, and the optics of things in a sense. So I'm not going to say that that's not my thing and I don't care about it. It will be part of the way in which I work and the industry that I would like to work in. So, but I try to be aware. Let's say I don't say I'm going to not do it, but I just want to be aware when it's happening. That I'm feeling like this is bothering me, and I'm feeling like I'm worried about what these people think or how I look or how I'm doing and all of these things. So I want to be aware more than anything.
Seeing your first movie and having had a quite a wholesome chat with you, I think you have a very interesting journey ahead. And my best wishes are with you, Ailia.
Thank you so very much. Thank you for having the
Thank,
time to speak with me.
thank you for this conversation and stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you.